Hello and welcome everyone, and in this video I'm gonna go into which things you should be getting in garage sales, what you should be looking for, and of course which ones are the best ones for you to get the best kind of money out there. So let's get started. And this is what I have been able to get so far in my latest garage sale. And in this one I'm going to be talking about which are good items I got, which ones you should be avoiding, and of course which ones you should keeping and getting them next time as well. Here's a good thing that I got, and as you can see, this is vintage, it looks good, and of course it is made out of metal. Now one of the things I want you to do when you get things that look like this, first of all, make sure it is a set. Next thing you want to do is to look for the name. There's going to be a name somewhere, usually it is on the bottom. You want to see which is the date, what it's made out of. Make sure it's not made in China. You want to make sure it is vintage, it is old, and of course use your smartphone. Google it. Try to find out what it's worth before you go about and spend the time to get it. The last thing you want to do is to get things from dealers. So if you see somebody who has a lot of vintage stuff and they're selling it and they're pricing it pretty good, then you know they can't actually sell it. So they're having trouble with selling it. That's why they're putting it on a garage sale. On the other hand, if it is some kind of old people who are selling it, maybe they're selling because they need extra cash. Maybe they don't even know how much it's worth. Maybe they're just cleaning up their house. This is exactly the kind of sales you want to go into. Next thing, this is a vintage radio, GE. This is worth about 30 bucks or so. So it's not a really great find, but if you can find it for less than a buck, it is worth it for you to flip it. At least you get 15 bucks. So in most places you get 15 bucks an hour. 15 bucks for finding something on the weekend to sell it for more cash, that's a great find. Make sure you plug it in, make sure all the buttons are working, make sure it doesn't have any other kind of damage, and you're good to go. Next thing, this. And those are handmade dolls. Here are two of them. I don't recommend you to actually get them because most of the time it takes you forever to sell them, and there is a very small market for those niche dolls. So something like this might not actually sell because this is handmade, and if it is handmade, that's not a good thing because those are not collectibles. On the other hand, if it is collectible and it is a handmade item, it might or might not sell, but you want to look for brand names that are collectible. There are certain brand names that are. This one right here doesn't have a name to it, so I looked at it. There's no identification for this item, so it makes it very hard for me to sell. Plus there's no original box, so make sure if you're getting them, at least get them in an original box. Otherwise, and if there is no identification or it is handmade, it's going to be very hard for you to make anything out of it. Not worth your time. Here is another thing. This looks vintage. It actually is not. So make sure you look at it. Make sure you see what day it's actually printed that it is made. This is made in 1999. So it's not really old. Plus it's made out of glass right here. And it could actually break when you ship it. That's the last thing you want to sell in a garage sale. And that's the last thing you want to sell on eBay as well. So it's not great to get this in a garage sale. It's not great for you to get something that might actually break because you can't sell it on eBay. Another thing right here, this is actually worth your time to get, is typewriters. So what you're going to be doing if you're getting a typewriter, first of all, don't get ones that are very heavy and vintage. So if it is very vintage and it is heavy, it's going to cost you a lot of money to ship it in the mail. That's the problem with them. And second thing, you gotta make sure that every button actually works. And the test is pretty simple. Press on it once and see if it sticks in. Look at this, it's stuck in. That's not good. So you want to make sure the buttons go like this and they keep on opening up. So if they go up again, that's good. If it gets stuck in there, that's not so great. So the last thing you want is them to get stuck, because otherwise you have to manually remove them. But that is not such a big problem. So if somebody is collecting those things, it's going to be a good find for you. Make sure it's worth your time to get them. So for example, if this costs like 30 bucks and you ship it for, it costs you like 80 altogether with shipping, it might be worth it. But if it's gonna go for 30 bucks in total, so it's gonna cost you 20 or 30 bucks to ship it, it's not gonna be worth it for you. So you gotta make sure the brand name and everything works well, plus it's gonna be worth your time to ship it. Next thing is vintage fonts. This one is not vintage enough. So it is vintage, but it's not vintage enough. You want one that has the dial thing to it. So if you can dial it in, that's great, because those are worth big money. This one is not, worth around 30 bucks. Not so great of a deal here. Next thing, this thing right here, ties. Lots of ties. I got those really cheap, 25 cents each. Very hard to sell those, even though some of them are brand names. It just takes a while for you to put them in a good way, and plus it doesn't have that much of a market for them. People are very particular about what kind of ties they want to actually get, so that's not great for you to get unless you want to get into clothing. So I don't like it, but I got them at a good deal, so I can't really complain about that. Here's an interesting thing that I was able to find. This is definitely vintage. It says welcome, there's a boat sign on it. So this one potentially maybe will get me like around 15 or 16 bucks if it does sell. So far I haven't been able to sell those. But then again, I haven't put them on yet. So that's why that's not really selling. Next thing I got, this nice mirror. Marc Jacob. When you open it up, there's actually a heart right in here. Looks really nice. It is vintage. Not sure the age of it. It doesn't actually say. There's a lot of scratches on this. I got this for 25 cents. If I can make a few bucks on it, that'll be great. I have been able to sell one of those for around 50 bucks. Not this company, but who knows. Sometimes somebody would want to get one of those. So hey, it might be worth it. And if you get in a very low investment, it might be actually worth it for you to get. Here's another thing I got. Leopard print sunglasses case. Awesome. This probably will go for around 10 bucks, maybe 12 bucks. It is vintage and they don't sell those anymore. So if somebody likes them, they are definitely going to get and buy them. Next thing, and this one right here, those are cases for chewing gum. Now I wanted to get them, and the reason I bought them is for one simple reason, is to show you demonstration in this video what you should not be actually getting. This is brand new. It's from the year, let me guess, 2016. Big cases where you can put chewing gum in them. Now this is great for putting tools, putting small things in them, but it's not great to sell on eBay because you can get those yourself and you can just buy them as well. So it's not vintage, it's not old, it's just a nice looking case. But to sell those on eBay, no, it's not gonna work for you. If you're getting them, you're getting them for yourself. It's not something that is gonna go for good money. Next thing right here is this. Take a look at this. James Bond DVD collection. Bunch of them right here. We have the whole Ultimate Bond collection from the first one all the way to another one, almost to the new one. But those are all vintage Bonds movies, and they're the old-fashioned DVDs. And if you're a millennial, you probably don't even know what it is. I'm just joking. If you're a millennial, you don't use DVDs. You like everything on demand on your computer or your laptop. You don't like carrying and having those DVDs around. Now, a lot of Generation Xers love those things. They love DVDs. They want to have something that shows what they're watching. They like having the physical item with them. So those do carry some value for certain people, but it's not really great to get them. So if you're getting them, certain ones would go for good money, other ones are not, and it's a big gamble. But if you can get them for like 20 cents a piece or something like super cheap, and you can flip it even in the garage sale for $1 or so, you're still making money. So for example, I got those 25 cents a piece, and if I can sell them for around 50 cents, I double my money. That's all I care about. Or of course, I can list them all up all together as a series on eBay, and if somebody buys all of them for around 16 or 20 bucks, I make even more money with them. So it is a gamble, but it is a very small price that investing in them. Next thing, and here is a Coca-Cola classic bottle. Now, brand names with Coca-Cola that says on them, those things can go for actually pretty good money, but not this particular one, because this one was actually sold in the late 90s. It's not vintage enough to sell. It is a great case, by the way. You can open it up and you can put things in there, but other than that, it's not going to give me the big money that I want. So there are a lot of things I'm showing you here that are not going to give you the big money, but at the same time you can flip them for more. Board games. There's a bunch of different board games. Some of them are worth more than others. Some you can get like maybe 30 bucks or so. You can't get any more than that usually with board games, but some of them are not worth it at all. So for example, you might get some, but they're going to be too heavy for you to ship. And the cases with this one right here, the hunting and fishing trivia, it is pretty heavy. It might cost me up to 15 bucks to ship this item. It might sell for around 30 bucks. It might be even better for me to just list it, just put it on Craigslist and try to get maybe 10 bucks for it. Would be totally fine for me. So that's not a great thing for you to get board games. I would usually stay away from them unless you can get them super cheap, like a few, like 25 cents or so, because it's pretty hard to go about and sell them. One of my favorite things to get, and I'll show you in a second. I'll show you two more things before we get to it. Barbie dolls, and those are not my favorite things. Favorite one is in the box, and I'll show you in a second. But here is genuine porcelain, whatever you call it, just a Barbie doll. Those are super hard to sell. There are certain ones that are collectibles. If you get lucky, you find the collectibles, you can fetch a huge amount of money. Most of the time, most guys who are buying things on garage sale are going to get the wrong kind of dolls and will have a huge and hard time being able to sell them, and I have been having very bad luck with them as well. I usually stay away from them because I'm always getting the wrong kind of dolls and I have a hard time reselling them. So no, don't buy those, don't get them unless you know what you're doing, and most of the time you don't. So next thing, I got those miniature tennis balls, collectible tennis balls right here. Those are not tennis balls. Oops, wrong thing. Next thing is collectible dolls. So collectible dolls right here, most of the time you're not going to be able to get the right ones. If you get the wrong ones, you have a hard time actually selling them. So most of the time I suggest do not get them, even if they're in original case. If somebody is selling them, they know what they're doing and they know they're not worth that much money. And usually they're overpriced, and if you buy them for like $5 or so, you won't be able to sell them for the same amount that you bought them. So stay away from them. You're not going to make almost any money on them whatsoever. Next thing is collectible mini baseballs. I got a bunch of those in one garage sale, and I found out the hard way that they're almost worth not that much money in initially anyways. So I got them like around 50 cents each, and of course they're worth about almost the same. So this was not a good deal, but hey, they're cool. They double up as an awesome looking stress ball. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to sell them. Maybe the price will go up eventually with those things. So it was a or miss here, but sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You want to win more than you lose with garage sales, because that's how you make the big money with them. Here is something else, and this is vintage Pepsi Cola, and this is actually a beer bottle, beer memorabilia, more likely that's what it's actually called. It is made of metal, it is very vintage, you can hang this on the wall, and this one is, or something like this, fetches for around, some of them fetch for 30, some of them fetch for 50, depends on the age and depends on the condition. So what you have to do when you're getting those, watch for the condition itself. You want to make sure there's not a lot of scratches in there, and the least scratches the better. Look in the back, you don't want to have this much amount of junk right here. As you can see, there's a lot of scratches in here because the value of it actually goes down. This is a cool thing for you to get to hang anywhere you want, to display it as well. So that's great for your man cave, but to sell this, I mean, it depends. I mean, I sold two of those for around, one of them for like 20, another one for almost 30 bucks, and I got them super cheap. So if you can get them super cheap and you can sell them, that's great. And this one I like. So this is the kind of beer memorabilia that you should be actually looking for, and you should be actually getting them. Next thing that I want to talk about is baskets. So people love to collect those vintage looking baskets themselves. This one looks pretty neat. I got this for 25 cents. I'm sure I can get at least $5 for this. People like to get them, and this is great to sell on eBay itself. Those are handmade or vintage kind of looking baskets. There is a lot of fan base who likes those kind of baskets. So it is something you should be getting only if you can get them at a great deal, less than $1 or so. And lastly, my favorite thing to get on garage sales, and I always look for them, is Legos. So you can get a bunch of Legos super cheap, and sometimes you get them with instruction booklets. So I got a bunch of them in a garage sale, and I had to pay a very small amount for them. So for 15 bucks, I got a huge collectible box of different Legos. Some of them were totally complete. Some of them came with instruction books as well. And all combined, I was able to make at least 200 bucks on a very small investment of Lego sets that I got in garage sales. So that's something I totally recommend for you to look for on garage sales, because you can get great deals with them. With that said, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of it, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because I'll have more videos of this or something like it as well, and you don't know what is the next video that I'll be showing in this channel. So have a great day, keep on treasure hunting, and see you in another video.